right, I'm here with Noah Bragg, the former founder of Potion. The reason I say former is he recently got acquired for about 300,000. Is that correct, Noah?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, huge congrats on that. And before we dive into everything, do you want to give people listening just a brief background of yourself for those that may not know you?
Yeah, sure. I like building things, and I've gotten into creating stuff online. Like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I did go to school for like a computer science degree, worked at a couple of tech companies, but I always had kind of that entrepreneurial itch. Like, I always was working on something on the side as I was working at these different tech companies, did a couple side businesses, but it was really maybe like 5 years ago where I tried to do a startup with a buddy from college. And on that, we were trying to like go big kind of thing, like build this like big startup. And through that experience, it didn't go very well. But through that, I then kind of found like, oh, there's like another way to do this. Like there's like bootstrappers and indie hackers and all this stuff. And that I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So that's when I kind of started kind of going into more that mode of like, can I build like just like a small online business that at least works for myself? Maybe I can build up to a small team or something, but it's not like I'm trying to go be a unicorn or something. And that's like worked a lot better for me. I've sold now 2 businesses on Acquire, which has been cool. And Potion is the last one. And I started that 2 years ago.
Nice. What was the other one? I didn't even know this.
Support man. It was a little one I sold to Damon Chen, who's pretty active on Twitter as well. So that was a fun little micro SaaS that I sold to him.
Nice. He seems to be on a buying spree.
I noticed that.
Yeah. I remember when he first launched his company testimonial, he had a tweet way back in the day, and he said something because he was quitting in public. I don't know if you ever.
I remember that.
And then he was like, I need 1,000 more in monthly recurring revenue. And then I signed up like 4 accounts. I was like, all right, you gotta quit your job now. So it's nice. good to see how everything comes full circle. But so let's talk about Potion. What problem did it solve? What made you want to build it? How'd you get it off the ground?
Yeah. So I really had this thesis back when I started it that like the best kind of business to build for like an indie hacker is to build on top of another platform. And I had seen some different people that had done this with like Intercom and Shopify and, WordPress, like there's those different platforms. And so I was kind of looking for a platform to build on top of. And the other thing that I kind of noticed, back then is that a lot of the kind of businesses that were early to those platforms were ones that like did well because, they're kind of early to the space, early to that platform. And, I was a Notion user for a year at that time, and I was starting to see like some people start to build on top of Notion. There was this thing called Fruition, which was kind of this way you could like really hackily like put basically point your own custom domain to a public Notion page. So you can kind of have like your website on Notion, but it's all hosted on Notion. And it was like you had to like hack this code together through Cloudflare to do it. But when I looked at that, I saw there were hundreds of people that had done that. And it was like this free little thing. And so that's kind of where the idea sparked of like, people are already trying to do this. It shows there's demand. Could I make something that just makes it really easy to build like a website on top of Notion, the platform Notion. And so that's kind of how Potion was born, with that idea, and kind of started building it right away. But yeah, so basically how it works is, you have all of your content in Notion. So you do like creating all your pages, writing your blog posts or whatever it is that you want in your website, portfolio websites, wiki websites, things like that. And then Potion kind of pulls all that data from Notion, creates pages automatically for all of your pages in Notion, and hosts it for you and creates a website that's better optimized for like SEO and things like that. So that's basically what Potion is in a nutshell, and kind of how the beginning of it started.
Nice. That is so beautiful. Like the part I love that you just said was you just saw all these people like doing something really manual, and you're like, I'll make that much easier for everybody who's So the problem was already validated before you even built the product. That's great. So how'd you get your first customers?
Yeah. So I have another thing actually with Support Man, that earlier kind of micro SaaS that I did, worked on that for only like 6 months, but I'd started to like share stuff on Twitter about it. And so kind of another kind of just thing I was thinking about when what I wanted to start next was like, what's something I could do where I could just like be very public about it, and it would be like it'd be like a beneficial thing. Like I just found I enjoyed like sharing stuff in public on Twitter. And so that was another reason I really liked the Potion idea, because I felt like it just fit that really well, where a lot of my like target customers for Potion were other entrepreneurs, other creators. And those are typically the kind of people that enjoy following along someone building in public and doing that kind of thing. And so that was kind of my strategy from the beginning of like, I want to just like build this in public, share everything, be transparent about it. And kind of from day one, I did that on Twitter, just kind of shared what I was doing. And I actually made like a tweet that was like something like, I'm going to build a SaaS in public starting tomorrow or something like that. And that tweet like kind of went semi-viral, and I got like 1,000 followers on day one from that tweet. And that was kind of the start of like the building in public stuff. And I didn't have any followers at that point either. That was kind of like the beginning of that. But yeah, so that's kind of how I started out. And the great thing about building in public with that is I got a lot of feedback as I went and kind of was learning as I went. But that's also kind of where I got my first customers. I'd say around like my first 75 customers just came from Twitter and kind of seeing what I was doing with Potion there. So that's kind of how it started.
Nice. I always say if you don't know how to market, just build in public. Just tell your story. It's fun. Sure, someone might like copy you. I've been seeing people complain about that. Like, don't share too much. But I always kind of think like, don't be afraid of being copied. Be afraid of being out executed. So that's like the perfect fit. I mean, you had an idea that was already validated before you built it. And then you were very thoughtful in terms of your go to market. Like you kind of like
tried to be.
Yeah, it sounds like you really, a lot of founders, build stuff people don't want, never find customers. But it sounds like, you were very thoughtful in your approach to building this startup, which is great. And I think is a testament to why it was so successful. So good job there, man. So I guess, the big question is, what made you want to sell it? What was like the moment? What was kind of like was there a day or was it like a week long thought process?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it was probably multiple weeks. Like there was times earlier on where I was like, maybe I should sell, or, you hit like road bumps in a business and you're like, oh, what do I do? And then you kind of think maybe I should sell, maybe I should do this. There was like a period, like a year into the business where I kind of hit some plateau and I wasn't really sure why. I mean, I guess it was probably mostly there's some churn issues at that point. So like for 6 months there, I wasn't really growing. The business wasn't really growing at all. And it was kind of plateaued. And I just kind of didn't know what to do. I was like trying different things, wasn't really seeming to work. And so like at that point, I was thinking maybe I should sell. I ended up Actually, I almost did sell at that point. I had a buyer that was interested, and it fell through, thankfully, because it would have been way less than what I ended up selling for. But after that, I was like, all right, well, I can't just leave this project like this. Like I need to keep it going. So that kind of motivated me again to like spend like 2 months, just like really trying to push the product. And I made like a version 2, and I got like some new affiliates on board and did a couple of different things that kind of put the business on a new trajectory. And that kind of got me out of that plateau where I was starting to grow like 6% a month again. So that was really good. But yeah, I'd say, kind of the cool thing with like building solo and indie hacking is you can kind of do what you want. Like that's the kind of is the fun part of it is like, there's times where I enjoyed running the business. It was a great business to run. There's other times where I wasn't as motivated and maybe I'd like go tinker with something else because I wasn't as excited about it for whatever reason. But yeah, so I think I kind of got to a point where I was wanting to maybe do a new challenge, start something different. I think the thing with Potion is it is built on top of Notion. So there's like potential platform risks. But the other thing with that is just like, I kind of felt like there is a ceiling at some point. It's like, how big can I grow this thing? Because it has to kind of fit within this platform. And so then, I was thinking through like, okay, well, maybe I could split it up or go onto other platforms as well, kind of build it that way, grow it that way. And that would be a lot of work, or maybe I could sell it. So like just all these different options, basically I was thinking through. And so I kind of came to like, I was ready to do a new challenge. And it seemed like after kind of getting through that plateau, growing it for like 9 months, it was like maybe at a good spot to where I could sell it at a price I'd be pretty happy at, and basically just see what happens, just throw it on acquire, And if someone liked it at the price I was happy with, then that'd be good. If not, I would, still be running it today and be happy with that outcome too. So yeah, I was kind of just seeing what happens, and I was happy with how the sale kind of was playing out. So that's kind of why I guess I sold it at the end of the day.
Nice. I hear that quite a bit in terms of, reason for sale, where, the 0 to 1 phase is, in my opinion, the funnest part, also the hardest part. So it's kind of, it's like, I guess they almost like cancel themselves out. It's the hardest part, but it's when you find like product market fit, you get like your first customers. And then after that, it's, like, how do we grow faster? How do we, it sounds like you expanded into new marketing channels. Like you're really starting to operate like you have a support ticket to get an answer.
Right.
It becomes like a piece of like a workflow or a tool that people are using on a daily basis. So you gotta maintain it. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I love your awareness in terms of just, kind of designing your work life in a way that you enjoy. Like, it sounds like you sold the business because, correct me if I'm wrong, you feel like you took it as far as you can go. You wanted to, I assume, take some liquidity off the table, maybe go work on something new.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the plan, what I'd like to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, I got some questions on that, but I'll save them for the end. So let's go through. I'm so curious about the actual acquisition process. So you list on acquire. What happens within like the first 2 weeks? How was your experience? Good and bad. Like how did that go first?
Yeah, it went well. I first listed it at 400K, and I knew that was maybe a little bit higher, just kind of looking at different numbers. And I had a friend that kind of knew what's normal for acquisitions and SaaS and SaaS like my size and stuff like that. So that was really helpful to talk to him. But yeah, the first 2 weeks, I don't know, probably had 10 different people kind of come through that were kind of interested and kind of chatting with a couple people. But I kind of did get the vibe that like maybe it was a little high. So after 2 weeks, I lowered it to 350K. Had more people come through. I think I had like 25-ish people sign the NDA to kind of see more data, see more info. And out of that, talked to around 6 people on like a call. And then out of that, 3 people like actually gave offers, 2 of them being more serious that I could kind of negotiate in between those 2. But yeah, I mean, it went pretty smoothly. Like I think from the time I listed to closing, I think was around 2 months. So it was decently, I guess I don't really know what's normal, but that seems fine to me.
That's good. I mean, typically we have averages, but it's really hard to give an average just because, the quality of the company plays such an important role to those averages. But yeah, 30 days typically I'd say to get to LOI, and then another 30, 60 days for due diligence. But it depends on the company size. We've seen the fastest was like 48 hours, which is a little fast and loose. It's hard. That's transferring everything over and sending, payment. That's not bad, man. I want to know more about that. And so one thing that you said that I think all, people really need to understand when they, go to sell their businesses, you have to talk to people. Like you have to schedule phone calls with buyers because they want to get to know you. They have additional questions. They want to, get your take on why you're selling. They want to see if you're just a good fit to work with. Because I've seen a ton of deals fall through just because there's not a good relationship between the buyer and the seller, or the seller's really doesn't have. I noticed you had your P&L uploaded, you were prepared to meet buyers. So that was a really good job. And then also, getting buyers to get put forth multiple offers. Because there's a saying, if you have one buyer, you have no buyers. And so that allowed you to, I assume, pick the buyer that you felt was the best person.
Right.
Nice. So good job on that. So you're just knocking it out of the park, man. It's like before you built the product, Thanks. You validated it. Before you launched the product, you kind of had, sort of a small framework of, this is how I'm going to take it to market. When you listed on Acquire, you were, responsive with buyers, like all those things. Like, I don't talk to too many founders that, get all that correct. I'm sure I made mistakes throughout
it's not like it was perfect, but yeah, at least some of those things went decently well. Yeah, like I said, there's definitely just throughout the business, different harder trial parts of the business that didn't go exactly how, you'd want. So yeah, it wasn't all perfect, but yeah, definitely happy with how things turned out.
Yeah. I mean, I think every startup has, these moments where you feel like everything's going to end. And then
yeah,
the next day, I always joke startup founders they have two emotions. One is, how is this business going to survive, and how am I going to spend my millions? Like, it's like, that's Monday, that's Tuesday. Okay. Right. So moving forward. So you found the buyer, you got to, terms, price, you sign the LOI, you start moving into, due diligence. How did that go? How did you handle that? To really ensure that LOI closed?
Yeah. So I'd say one thing that was really helpful was I really did appreciate my buyer, like just how transparent and open he was. And he was just very easy to work with. Another thing that was nice is like he sold a SaaS business before, so he's kind of been on the other side. And so he's definitely more like very founder friendly, and he's also a software developer. So that was one of the things I was kind of worried about, is like transitioning and stuff would just be, I feel like, challenging if it was someone that just didn't really know anything about, how to code and stuff himself, where with him, like I could just kind of transition it over. He could kind of get up to speed pretty quickly, and it wouldn't be like this big, hard process. Let's see. The other parts of the transition is, and this is probably where we came into a little, it didn't end up being any issues, but like I probably could have done a better job of just like my books and stuff like that, because they want financial statements and things of, revenue stuff and things like that, which I pretty much handled that all myself. I never had like a bookkeeper throughout the business, or I did have like a tax advisor, but I didn't have things probably as professional as you could, or maybe some people would hope or expect for. So there was a little bit back and forth through that, just like making sure I was getting the right data to him and things like that. But that's kind of what the due diligence kind of looked like, is getting the financial data over, going through some of the code, the source code, and explaining how things work a little bit, just so that he was kind of on the same page of knowing what this could look like for him. But yeah, other than that, like it was pretty straightforward. And, I'd say from LOI to signing, it was, 3 weeks or so. And then we actually did the full transition of transitioning all of the, basically pretty much, it's funny, like SaaS businesses now, it's like, what is that? It's like code, and then like all these subscriptions to other SaaS businesses that you're just like giving them all the accounts. And then Stripe, of course, and Stripe was actually a little bit harder to transition over than I thought it would be. But it took us, we had 5 days to do all that transition. So we did that in 5 days. And that took a little bit longer than I thought, or a little more work within those 5 days than I thought, but we got it done within that time. But that's kind of what that looked like.
Nice. I mean, that sounds, I've heard, much bumpier than that. So that sounded smooth. In terms of like, transferring, like, did you transfer the Stripe account, or did you have other products in one Stripe account?
So we went back even with like Stripe support a lot with this, is like my corporation entity was like connected to my Stripe account. I think because I use, Atlas or whatever their product is called for that. Yeah. And apparently there's not a way that they can separate that from the whole like Stripe account. And so basically what we had to do was the buyer had to create a new Stripe account. And then Stripe does have an easy interface to basically move products over, to move customers over. But then we had to like write the code and the script to move all the subscriptions and the payments and that over, and then start those again on the new Stripe account. So that was kind of like the hard, kind of tricky part, just to make sure we did it all right and didn't like mess something up. But yeah, that's kind of what that ended up looking like, just because like my entity was kind of connected to the Stripe account, and there wasn't really a way to get around that apparently.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, the most ideal scenario is if you can just hand the Stripe account over. Yeah. But I've heard, the one thing I if anyone has this going on, fix it before you list your startup. But like a Stripe account with like 10 products and you're selling one and you got to pull like that out, that I've seen that it's definitely doable. It's just probably a bigger lift than what you went through. So that isn't that bad at all. What was like your favorite part of just going through acquiring the acquisition process?
I guess the favorite part was just that it was pretty easy, like pretty seamless, like, connecting with buyers that were actually interested and serious and, making that easier. Cause I didn't really want to waste time on it. Like if I wasn't going to actually sell it, I just want to keep kind of going forward with the business and doing what I was doing. So it wasn't something I really wanted to spend a lot of time on. So I was glad that it went pretty smoothly. So, I think that would be kind of the favorite thing. I think the other thing is, even just from doing like the due diligence and stuff, it was really helpful to me to kind of just understand and see like, oh, this is like what, buyers are looking for. This is what they appreciate, you doing to kind of be ready to kind of almost to show your business to them. And like, even like what I was mentioning with some of the booking and things like that, like it just showed me some things that I could do better next time in my business to just make sure that I'm really like at a good spot if I do get to the point where I want to sell that business or whatever. I think I just learned a lot through that to just like, what's this whole process look like from start to end of building and selling a business. So hopefully that'll be beneficial to me in the future. If I can do it again, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I bet you can, man. And yeah, preparation is key because, it's at first impressions that buyers get and the more materials that you can present. And we have those, if anyone needs it, like a due diligence checklist or something called a SIM for if your business is like in the millions in revenue, it's acronym for confidential information memorandum, but it's basically like a book of like how every part of your business works from, your accounting system, your customer system of record, all the way down to, employees on the bigger side. But all that prep, it allows the buyer to, use your product, view the materials. And then when they talk to you, they're much more informed. And your job as a seller is to, help the buyer wrap their head around the business as quickly as possible. And it sounded like you did a good job doing that by, with some prep and speaking with buyers and, educating them on the business. And that's what creates interest towards an acquisition. Like you have to sell your business. So,
well, I think something that I noticed seemed to help that people appreciated was like, I even with running the business Potion, like at the later ends of it, I was kind of just trying to automate more things and just like basically make it so it takes less of my time, even with like customer support and things like that. And just being able to get like the amount of time that basically I have to spend on the business down to like 2 hours a week or something like that. Like I could just like people seem to appreciate that like, it just doesn't take a ton of time to kind of keep this business going. And I've heard, other people talk about like, that's maybe the benefit of like hiring employees or things like that for your business, where it starts to get, it's not like all just connected to the founder where like you have to have that person there to make this business run, where you can kind of separate things and automate things. Then it's just easier for that to then transfer over to somebody else. And so I think some of like those steps helped definitely to make it just a easier process, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. That also increases your valuation too, because if a buyer, maybe if you had not done those things, a buyer would need to figure out how, that you're not going to stay on to handle support tickets for, a long period of time. So if they had to figure out how to do that on their own, that may have, lowered. So yes, automating and really just getting your business to a point where you're not, it's called like key man risk, where if you leave the business, it just doesn't work and that sort of stuff. So you kind of want to make yourself, as useless as possible, to a degree. If that makes sense. But, okay. So so it sounds like, you passed through due diligence, things went smooth. You got, money in the bank. What are you doing now, Noah?
Yeah. So, I've been kind of just thinking about like, what I want to do. I mean, even in the last 4-ish months, kind of why I ended up like thinking even about selling is I was already starting to like prototype different ideas, test out different things. Like I was kind of already in that space in my head of wanting to do something else. I think with this business, like I want to do something a little bit more ambitious. I still, again, I'm not trying to build like a unicorn or a huge startup or anything like that, but I'd like to kind of bootstrap a business to just be a little bit bigger, maybe get it to where I could have a couple people, like have a small team. I think that could be fun, and just, it'd be a different experience and different growth and learning. And so, yeah, that's kind of the plan. And yeah, so I'm still figuring out, I'm still like doing a lot of exploring, just like doing a lot of research, trying to like figure out different ideas that I think could work. And so, yeah, I haven't really landed specifically on something completely yet, but yeah, I'm just kind of exploring. And some people ask like, well, are you going to like take a break or something like that? And kind of the funny thing is I feel like I'm actually like really like just ready to get started right now, because I feel like the last multiple months of Potion were just they were already kind of like, I felt like I was already taking a break then, like it was kind of easy. So I just kind of felt like I've been like getting ready to like want to do something again and kind of get something started. And so, yeah, we'll see, I guess, what happens, but I'm excited to start on something new and see what I can build again.
Right on. Yeah, I love it. That's one of my favorite parts about Acquires, when I talk to founders like you. And I mean, what you built was extremely successful, and you sold it for, a fantastic amount. I think you had like a 4x multiple.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's great. So you did exceptionally well. And then now you want to go and build something new, possibly bigger. And all that experience that you gained is just going to help you so much more. So I'm rooting for you, Noah. I think
thanks.
I hope to have you back on this podcast. Maybe when you sell, maybe with another zero on your next acquisition. Because
yeah, that'd be cool.
If you do it once, you can do it again.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And yeah, I really appreciate everything you guys have built with Acquire. Definitely makes this process easier. So yeah, it's been good. And I'm even wearing my my micro Acquire shirt here. So
there you go. The OG. I still got micro Acquire back here. Well, no, I appreciate you. And if people want to learn more about your story or just where to find you, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on Twitter. My handle's Noah W. Bragg, and I'm still just like sharing what I'm doing and stuff. In some ways, it's gonna hopefully be more helpful and valuable to people too, since I'm starting something early again. Like I feel like there's more interesting things to share that are helpful to people kind of getting started and stuff. So yeah, I'm still like kind of sharing in public and stuff there. So you can definitely find me there.
Sounds good. I'll put that all in the show notes. Well, no, I'm ready for you, man. And congrats again on the acquisition.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers, bud.